Need a quick after work meal? Taco meat is about as easy as it gets. I'm Scot McDonald with Pacific Northwest Suburban Homesteading. Today, homesteading spouse Scot McDonald demonstrates his recipe for dinner in the freezer.
So let's talk quick and easy taco meat or any type of Mexican ground beef. You can use this for burritos, tacos, nachos, pretty much anything. And this is another really easy recipe designed to be quick and easy. I have here 3.8, almost 4 pounds of a lean ground beef. This is a 93% lean ground beef. You can use whatever beef you want to. The idea behind it is just get it fried up and add some seasonings and spices into it to make it flavorful. A lot of people like to use the little package you buy in the grocery store. I want something with a little bit more flavor, but I want something quick and easy to do. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna brown this up with 2 tablespoons of chili powder, a little bit of salt. We'll change that when we get it on the griddle, and then I like using some salsa to add some moisture to it and some vegetables in it. It's got peppers, onions, garlic, and it's got quite a bit of liquid in it, which is why I use this particular salsa. I experimented with this with a bunch of different salsas. This is the one that I found that works best. That said, you may not be able to find this in your area. What you're looking for is a salsa that's got quite a bit of a liquid content to it. So you can actually see that there's quite a bit of moisture. For like chips and salsa, this is not the greatest salsa because it's actually quite wet. But I actually want that in this recipe because I want to add a little bit of moisture back into the meat as it's browning off, and that will add a lot of flavor to my final dish. Now, you could put this on the stove and make it work just fine. I wouldn't try to do 4 pounds at once doing that. I'd do a pound or 2 in that process. I cheat. I have a griddle. We're going to take this out to the griddle and do all 4 pounds at once on my griddle and then take care of it after that. So I have my griddle preheated. I got it heated to a medium-high heat. I find with this particular griddle, I don't need to do much more than that for browning ground beef. I'm going to put just a little bit of avocado oil on here because I am using a very lean ground beef. And we want just a little bit of oil for cooking on that, and that'll smoke up nicely because it's pretty warm. All right, first thing I'm going to do is take my ground beef and drop it out on there. Make sure I get the little thing on that. And then, time to break it up. This is one of the reasons I like using the griddle for this, is that this is really easy to break up using my really big griddle spatula. The object of this game is to get it all broken up nice and neat, so you're not dealing with little meatballs, you're dealing with actual browned ground beef. Now this is not going to take very long to cook because this type of ground beef doesn't take long at all on a griddle like this. Keep moving it around a little bit, propping it up, working on it. Once I start to see most of the pink start to go away, then I'm going to start adding my spices to this, and I'll start sweeping it back and forth across the griddle. This part of the griddle is now pretty cool because it's got the meat on it. I want to move it to a hotter side as I do the spice transition so I can cook all that spices in. So I'm starting to see a lot of the moisture coming out of the meat, which is what I want to see because that's cooking it up. But it's not quite to the frying part yet. Once the moisture's out, that's when we want to actually play with the spices and stuff. Okay, most of my pink's out. I'm starting to see a lot less moisture coming out of it. So it's time to start with my spicing. So, first thing I'm going to do is work in my 2 tablespoons of chili powder. That's going to kick up the cumin flavor, a bunch of other spices that go in there. Makes it really tasty. Smells really good already just coming off of that. What I like to do is just mix that into the meat just a little bit before I put on my salsa.
Make sure my spices are well distributed there. Breaking up a couple extra chunks there that missed my first run. All right, so at this point, it's time to put some moisture back in here before we start burning this stuff. So, I have big pockets. All I'm just going to do is open that bottle of salsa up and just pour it right on top of the meat. Get as much of the salsa out of the jar as I can. And then I'm actually going to work that bottle of salsa in before I break out the next bottle. Sometimes you don't need as much, two full bottles. Usually you do, but you can start to see the moisture from the salsa coming in on the meat. I'll work that back into the meat. Make the stuff nice and tasty. Mix it up all nice together. So preparation for the next stage, I'm actually going to reduce the temperature of this side of my griddle to medium-low and the middle zone as well, because what I'll do, once I get the next bottle spread in, I'm going to spread the whole thing out over my griddle to get as much cooking surface as I can to just kind of caramelize all that flavor together. Mix this in a little bit more, get it all cooked up. All right, now at this point, I'm actually just going to take a little bit of this and see how I like the spice mix going. Personal note, do not try to eat this right off the griddle before you cool it down. That's good. Oh yeah, that'll work. But it does need a little bit more spice, and it does need a little bit more salt. So we're gonna go ahead and add that extra bottle of salsa in there, and then start with putting that a little bit of salt on it. I'm only gonna use about half of this bottle. And then I'm going to use just about, I had about a tablespoon of salt in this. I'm going to use maybe a teaspoon, so about a third of that. Just put a little bit of salt in it, not way too much, but a little bit. Spread this out over my griddle to get as much cooking surface on this as I can to finish the browning and caramelizing. And this will not take very long at all, and then we'll be ready to plate it, or take it off the griddle anyway. This is getting to be the color that I'm looking for, the browned beef color. Final test, just to make sure I got my spicings the way I want them. That'll work, yep. Yep, that'll work just fine. Now, we take it off the griddle. So this particular spatula's got some holes in it. Let me do a little bit of extra draining. Don't really need it with this particular one because I'm using a really lean ground beef, and I've cooked all the moisture into the beef from the salsa. But it's just a little thing I do.
So we got it off the griddle now. One little warning about this, if you're using a metal bowl when you take it off the griddle, it's gonna be hot. So just don't burn yourself. All right, so what I'm gonna do with all this is, you can serve it right now, put it on tacos, burritos, nachos with it, or in this particular case, what I'm doing with this entire batch is I'm gonna freeze it. I have these glass lock lid containers that I'm gonna just put it into. They happen to be about the right size for if we wanted to make nachos or burritos on a night. And all I'm just gonna do is put it right directly into these containers. Then I'm gonna let it cool down a little bit before I put the lid on it, and then move it into our freezer. It ends up being about 2 cups worth of taco meat in each of these containers, which we find is about the right amount. I really like burrito bowls, where you take a layer of rice, a layer of the refried beans, which we're also cooking, some of this taco meat, some shredded cheese, some lettuce, some sour cream. Works out really well. So what I'm going to do right now is let those cool for a little bit before I put the lids on them and stick them in the freezer. I'm going to do this exact same thing with all the rest of it.
Don't forget to label and date the containers. Check the description for links to the recipe cards and the refried bean video from last week. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, be curious, keep an open mind, and never stop learning.